The San Francisco 49ers set the practice squad and also send a message to Brandon Aiyuk at the same time. They are done playing around. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers. Make sure you are subscribed, though, on YouTube and everywhere you listen to this podcast. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Croc. It's game time for the 49ers. They're getting ready for week one. And you could tell there was a big tone switch to me when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch were at the podium on Wednesday speaking about the roster, but especially what they said about Brandon Aiyuk. And essentially, Brandon Aiyuk's been holding in, right? And when you hold in, you got to have a reason you're not practicing. A sore back is what it's been. We all know Brandon Aiyuk doesn't have a sore back. He's got sore feelings, maybe. Maybe his pocketbook's a little lighter than he wants it to be, but he doesn't have a sore back. And the 49ers had him checked out by their doctors, and he has been cleared to practice. And that is a huge signal. That is a big deal for where this negotiation is, where the 49ers are at with Brandon Aiyuk. They are telling Brandon Aiyuk, you are cleared to practice, and you are now expected to practice. And they were speaking before practice today. And they said, he's been cleared to practice. We expect to see him out there. Brandon Aiyuk not out there, and now he's going to start getting opened up to fines, potentially a suspension. I don't even know what the rules are on teams handing out suspensions to their own players. The fact that he was not on a did not report list, is that still a list the 49ers could put him on? Obviously, it probably did not help, Croc, that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are going over this roster, and they have to cut players potentially that were claimed on waivers. We'll get into those guys. They lost players because they had to keep an extra wide receiver because they don't know if Brandon Aiyuk's going to show up and play. And so I think that's really what changed the tone for them as they start getting ready for week one now, and it starts getting really serious.
I think now it's just, all right, what is the play here? We talked about on the previous episode, it's been hard to kind of figure out what the 49ers plans were. And now I guess their plan is to make him play on the fifth-year option. And it seems like Aiyuk has no intentions on doing that. I actually thought that at the very least he would play on the fifth-year option. It's like, all right, you've been kind of standing in there 10 toes down. You are like, I need a new contract. I don't want to play on the fifth-year option. And again, we've talked about it before, the whole fifth-year option thing. T. Higgins, who was drafted, 6 selections later, ended up being taken at the very top of the second round. And because of that, he had to get franchise tagged and makes, I think, a significant amount more than Brandon Aiyuk. So when you look at that, where it's like, man, this dude is taking 5 picks later, he's making, $7-8 million more this year, at least, if it's on 1 year. I think it's just hard for him to sit with that, knowing the type of production he's been able to kind of put up over the last couple of years. And now he's in this situation. My pushback on Brandon Aiyuk. All right. So I am team player. And I always kind of like to look at it from everything. I'm like, hey, 49ers, if they just would have upped their offer, they could have had this thing handled. And they tried to play hardball. He's playing hardball back with them. But where I do say Brandon Aiyuk is at fault, the Cleveland Browns, I felt like that was a good situation all the way around. And you turn that down. So while I try to have his back throughout a lot of these and the negotiations, the team that was willing to pay you what you want, the 49ers were able to get something in return that they like, you shut that whole thing down. So you now are a big reason as to why we're still here. Holding out for money that you feel like you're slotted at, right? Like, we're not talking about CeeDee Lamb. We're not talking Justin Jefferson, but all right, I should get paid in this range. Hey, dude, I'm all for it. I 100% agree. You should get paid in this range as your receiver. But when you had the opportunity to jump on it and you didn't, Now it's like, you are a big part of the reason we're still here.
Yeah. If getting paid was the thing, that could have happened. And he could be in New England. He could be in Cleveland. And might have even gotten the most money from New England. He wants to be with the 49ers, but he also wants to get paid. Or he wants to go to the teams only he wants to go to. That's what a free agent gets to do. And Brandon Aiyuk is not a free agent. It's the reality of the situation. His situation under the fifth-year option has been collectively bargained. His gripe is not even with the 49ers. It's with the Players Association, right? This has been collectively bargained. These are the rules that the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk are under. The 49ers tried to make some trades work. They talked to the two teams that he wanted to go to. They couldn't be satisfied. And when it comes to trading him, and I want to get to how the tone has changed with fans and stuff as well. Even, Steve Young he's a former player. I mean, he gets it as much as anybody, right? John Lynch was a former player as well. So I'm sure he understands. But when it comes to the options that Brandon Aiyuk has and where he's at, I just don't think that Brandon Aiyuk is in a place that the 49ers want to do that deal with him anymore. Kyle Shanahan said that everything is still open, but clearly the 49ers aren't going to go up to the money he wants. The teams he wants to go to haven't offered what the 49ers want in return. So the only option left is for Brandon Aiyuk to ball out and get paid next offseason. And
real quick, while you're there, I've told you why I wouldn't want to play on that, right? Like, I think most people would just tell you, dude, just go ball out. Next offseason, they'll either tag you or tag and trade. You might have more options. But my thing is, his value may not be the same. Again, the 2022 season, he was targeted more than last season and barely had over 1,000 yards. He had like 1,015. So when he had the opportunity to capitalize after having a 1,350-yard season while being second in the NFL in yards per reception, he has to kind of strike while the iron's hot. So I think that's his sense of urgency. I don't think it's as simple as just, oh, yeah, I'm cool with just playing on the fifth-year option. Let me ball out. And next offseason, I'm going to get paid this big contract. What his value is, whether it's the amount of money or what people are willing to trade for him, could drastically change come next offseason, even if the 49ers target him the exact same amount.
I have a hard time believing Brandon Aiyuk is, unless the only reason to me is injury. I have a hard time believing, no matter what circumstances, if Brandon Aiyuk plays healthy, that he's going to be worth less next offseason. In fact, I would bet money he's worth more than he is next offseason. The only way he will be worth potentially less is if he doesn't show up and teams think he's going to be a problem. And so maybe he's got fewer suitors in that case. But even if, let's say, so as far as the trade goes, and so you're the 49ers and the best offer you're getting is just for draft picks, right? Well, guess what? Next offseason, those same draft picks will be on the table. You tell me the 49ers wouldn't get a second-round pick next offseason for Brandon Aiyuk in a tag and trade situation? So why would you trade him now?
I think you might.
They don't gain anything. They'll get the same picks for trading him next offseason as they would right now. In fact, there'll be more teams probably involved. So it makes no sense for the 49ers to trade him for anything less than what they think is a good haul that they believe is worth trading him for. And anything less, it's like up to Brandon Aiyuk to play. Like, he's under contract, and that's the reality of the situation. So he can come play, or he can lose paychecks. He can wait until week 11 or whatever it is until then he shows up so his contract accrues. You think teams are going to like that? Like, that's a good way to lose a lot of money right there. And unfortunately for Brandon Aiyuk in the situation he's in, if it was really the money he wanted, he had the opportunity to go to a couple teams. He said no to those opportunities. Where this is right now, the 49ers are done playing, and he's got to show up and play. And if he's going to be a problem for the team, that's on him, and that's only going to hurt him from this point forward.
I will say the 49ers also, again, they are not in the clear here. The Steelers made what they felt like was a good offer. Maybe the 49ers didn't, but it was almost like, hey, we're waiting. All you have to do is, hit the accept button and this deal is done. And they're like, oh, no, we want a receiver in return. So, and I don't know what that's all about. We've talked a lot about why I think that's kind of, I don't want to say stupid, but when you have so many you drafted guys, like why else do you draft guys in the first round? I'd assume to play them.
Yeah.
like what receivers get drafted first round and it's like, nah, we still need another receiver. Well, you drafted one fourth round. Nah, we need another one. Like what? You got Debo, you got all these other guys. I don't know. I get it in the sense of losing Brandon Aiyuk, but when it was Stephon Diggs getting traded to Buffalo, Minnesota wasn't like, well, even though we're going to use this first round pick on a receiver named Justin Jefferson, we need another receiver. It's like, no, you got Justin Jefferson and you're going to play him right away. They had him, they had Adam Thielen, and they were a terrific combo from the jump. And the 49ers, if that is the only holdup with the Pittsburgh, wanting a receiver in return, then they're just as at fault as anybody else in this.
Well, I think the holdup with Washington and Pittsburgh is that unlike Buffalo, those teams aren't willing to give the 49ers a first-round pick, which is what they're asking. I think if Steelers called up tomorrow and said, hey, let's end this, we're going to send you our first-round pick, Brandon Aiyuk's packing his bags. Next, the 49ers have added another wide receiver to the practice squad and a whole lot more players to the squad, but unfortunately got a few players poached from waivers that they were probably hoping would get to the practice squad. All that and more. What is the makeup now of this San Francisco 49ers roster as we head into NFL regular season? Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. And I tell you what, man, it's that after lunch, the after lunch period, early afternoon is when it hits me because that's when I need 5 Hour Energy. I need the 5 Hour Energy that fixes tired fast. I need to be able to go. I need to have energy to do a podcast. Yeah, we're going live at 8 p.m. on YouTube right now. I need to have the energy for that. Maybe I want to go work out. I need to get a nighttime workout in because that's the time I have after doing everything as a dad all day, doing work. I need the energy to do that. And that morning coffee, that wears off quick for me. So if I ever need to tackle something after work, a long list of to-dos, DIY projects on the weekend, whatever it is, that's where 5 Hour Energy comes in. Zero sugar, a convenient, portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up to get stuff done. And if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today, you can use our promo code LOCKEDONFB. That is LOCKEDONFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer only valid through September 30th on one order and cannot be used in other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Before we get to the practice squad stuff, Croc, we were talking a little bit about this off the air. And as soon as we went live, I'm seeing it flooded. Like 9 out of 10 comments is like, nope, we're done too. Like fans are jumping off the Brandon Aiyuk bandwagon right now. I think the team has won sort of the
perception battle.
The perception battle. Yeah, the 49ers are winning that battle right now with what's going on. And I think today was probably a big turning point. I think it was maybe closer to 50-50 before that. And, we always talk about it's don't hate the player, hate the game. I don't think the 49ers are wrong for wanting to do what they think is best. I think they might have screwed some things up along the way, and this could have get done sooner. I think Brandon Aiyuk is, don't hate the player for wanting to get more money. He wants what he wants. But at a certain point, you're under contract and you do have to play by the rules, right? You can't catch a ball, then run out of bounds and score the touchdown and run in the end zone, expect them to give you a touchdown for it, right? There are rules to the game. So don't hate the player, hate the game. Where we're at in the game right now is a really ugly spot. But the perception battle is being won by the 49ers. And you look at the comments on the chat right now as we're live, and people are ready to jump ship on Brandon Aiyuk. You see it on Steve Young. Can we go to Steve Young's comments this week on KNBR radio? Steve Young said, he dropped a bro too. I love when Steve Young drops a bro. He said, it's like, bro, do you not see what we're trying to get done here? And that quote, I think, was about Trent Williams. And so he talked about, like, so this is a player, right? This is an ex-player. And he's thinking like, man, you're trying to go win a Super Bowl and it's a week before the season and you're holding out on your team, on your teammates right now. Don't you see what the don't you see what we're trying to do? And that's where the frustrations are coming in. And I think there's going to start being frustrations probably from players inside the locker room too. And I wonder if the team is winning that perception battle over those players right now. And I'm sure players where they are. I swear, Croc, you think that if these players mess up an opportunity for one of these guys, you think George Kittle's going to be like, oh no, that was cool. Our whole season just got completely derailed and we didn't get a chance to win a Super Bowl in my age 31 season. He's going to be all happy about that. I think at a certain point it starts to tip, and the leaders on the team are going to be like, hey, we got games to play. Like we're trying to win a ring here. We're trying to win championships. And I think everybody totally gets it, because Kittle's gone through his negotiations. Warner's gone through his negotiations. Nick Bosa's gone through his negotiations. So they get it. But at a certain point, you start hurting the team by not being there. All those guys signed and showed up to play in week one.
The guys truly in the locker room. Typically, the guys I've been around, I've only heard one guy really throw his teammates under the bus for contractual purposes. I want to say it might have been Ben Roethlisberger, was it? It was a quarterback, Baker Mayfield, I think it was. It was a quarterback that was just like, oh yeah, he needs to get here. It was something wild. Everyone truly understands and respects the personal part with the negotiation that goes on with these teams. I think for us, we do look at these players as, George Kittle, 49er player, Deebo Samuel, 49er player, Nick Bosa, 49er player. But really, they are regular people. They just make more money than us, and you have to take care of your family, like the personal side of things, right? So when it comes to the money, it's hard for these guys to speak on how this person should handle a situation that he feels best is for him. So in any locker room I've ever been in, I haven't seen that. Like, I haven't seen players, not that they don't care that the guy is gone. It's like, hey man, we miss you, bro. We need you here. Get this thing done. Of course. But a lot of it is on this team. Like, hey, y'all got to get it done and make sure that my guy is taken care of. Yeah, I talked about the situation I was around with Darrelle Revis. Revis was holding out. When Revis came back much earlier in the offseason, it was, oh, Reed, what's up, Revis? Like, everybody was cool with him. And then, like, 2 weeks later, he was traded to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know, but see, they handled it right then and there. They handled it prior to the draft. I feel like the players will truly understand. Do they want Aiyuk in the building? Of course. Deebo Samuel said it on Up in K. Like, I expect him to be on the team. They do. But they will not fault the player for doing what he feels he needs to do to make sure that his situation is taken care of the way it needs to be, whether it's Aiyuk or Trent Williams.
I think privately it is much different than what they might say about it. Like, I don't expect George Kittle or Nick Bosa or Fred Warner to be like, man, these guys are ruining our season right now by not showing up. But privately,
it's a job though. Like Peacock, it's a job. So even when they get home, like, at the end of the day, George Kittle, he gets his money. Deebo, he gets his money. When they're at home and they're playing with their kids and their dogs.
I think fans would be pretty upset to think that those guys are that jaded that winning matters that little to play.
Not that it matters that little, but it doesn't supersede someone doing what he feels is best for him and his family. Like, I don't think they're upset at all at that. And that's the part where it is just a job.
Right. Well, that's where you start to really lose fans too. Because if you say that to fans are going to say, obviously, oh, you can't take care of your family on $14.1 million. Lose me with that. I'm out here paying $200 for a jersey. I'm out here spending thousands of dollars to take my family to the game. And so again, that's why I think that the perception battle right now is being won by the team. And I mean, you remember the Trey Lance stuff? The guys were tired of answering questions about it. Like, I think it matters. I think it affects the locker room. It might not be like you're mad at the dudes, but it affects the locker room in some type of way.
That part, but who are they mad at? They're not mad at Lance or Jimmy. They're upset with the media. Like, why do y'all, everywhere we go, every interview, y'all keep asking me about this? So it's not even towards the players. Like, bro, you did nothing wrong. Like, matter of fact, they like Trey Lance. They just didn't like Trey Lance, the actual player on the field.
And again, I would counter with that. Like, the media making a lot less money for their families. That's their job. And the reason football players can make the money they can is because fans care so much and listen to the media and listen to all the content that's out there and want to know what's going on with their team. So it's the caring, right? And so there's a lot of caring involved. And if fans thought the players really didn't care that much, I think they'd be pretty upset about it. And I think fans probably shouldn't know how little some players do care. I'm sure there's some players out there that do not care all that much. It is straight up a job. Some players, you can tell by the way they play, you can tell by the way they act and speak that they care a little bit more than others. But at some point, it does affect the locker room, whether it's one way or the other.
It is 100% a job. Like, it is a job. And I think and it's hard because, again, we watch them, they're entertainers. But once you wrap your head around understanding that, I hope that puts it into kind of like a different perspective for you with how these guys kind of handle certain things. If he goes out there and breaks his leg tomorrow, knock on wood, but if something happens with any player, everybody else's life goes on. Like, the fans, their lives goes on, and they're going to continue to be a Niner fan. But that player just likely maybe stops doing something or being able to do something at a high level that they've been doing since they were 7, 8 years old. And that's all they know. And who knows, and this is the part, like the outside part, how many people these players take care of. Like, they a lot of these guys, they're not coming from like these families where everything is great. They got nephews, nieces, they got family members on drugs. They got all kind of people they take care of, and people don't see that part of it. I get to see it because I'm around former players a lot, and I see all that they handle, even in their post careers, and it's a lot. So, I never kind of question that aspect of it when it comes to the money and stuff. You got to do what's best for you because you never know what this person has going on, and that everybody might look up to them. Like, hey, you're the one supporting everybody in the family, and it's unfortunate. And it's not fair for, like, maybe Nick Bosa ain't worried about that because his brother and playing his dad, his uncle, everybody played in the league. But there's a lot of people that's not where they come from.
How many times you show up to watch someone perform their job, Croc?
Anytime I go into a 49er game, not a whole lot.
Right. This ain't no job. This ain't no regular old job. I'll say that. It is a job. It's not a regular old job. This is a different situation. So there's a lot at stake here for a lot of people. And to be honest with you, like, if you're bad and things are going poor, that does affect your family and how much you might potentially get paid too. So
exactly, that's why you got to strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah, that might start to affect other players' money. Then Brock Purdy might be like, "Oh, wait a second, there goes my $60 million because you didn't show up." And so then, so then it does start to affect their money. And then, but I mean, obviously, a lot of business decisions are happening right now. And again, don't hate the player, hate the game. But clearly, Brandon Aiyuk right now is losing the perception battle with what's going on. Yes. And the 49ers expect him to show up. And so far, he has not shown up to practice. We'll see how that goes. Next, practice squad. 49ers added Terrace Marshall to the practice squad, lose 4 players. All that and more. We'll finish up this episode of Locked On 49ers. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. And anytime you are ready to buy tickets for a 49ers game, a basketball game, a college football game, a Major League Baseball game, any concert, comedy show, theater event near you, Gametime is the app. And Gametime now has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff, so you only see the incredible deals on great seats, and you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets for some of those bigger events. And Gametime Picks curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater. My favorite feature is the all-in pricing. Toggle that on with no surprise fees at checkout. Lowest price guarantee. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, Croc, taking a look at the practice squad, and here it is officially. Isaac Alarcon, tackle. He is part of the International Pathways program, so he doesn't actually count towards the number of practice squad players. They did bring back a number of defensive linemen, defensive tackle Evan Anderson, defensive end Alex Barrett, defensive end Jonathan Garvin, and defensive tackle T.Y. McGill. A couple tight ends. Not surprising at all to see Braden Willis back, Mason Pline back at tight end. Drake Nugent, the center, undrafted rookie. He looked pretty good in the preseason. He makes it back to the 49ers practice squad. Cornerback Chase Lucas, your guy, safety Jalen Mahoney, and safety Tracy Walker all make it back to the 49ers practice squad. Quarterback Tanner Mordecai, and a couple of wide receivers, young and old. Wide receiver Tay Martin and wide receiver Trent Taylor. So that is the coverage on the 49ers practice squad. And as expected, Ambry Thomas, John Feliciano both go on IR, and John Feliciano designated to return. I don't think Ambry Thomas was designated to return, though. And then our guy, Sam Okwuonu, waived after 1 day of being on the final roster. So he might be another name that's added to the practice squad. The 49ers did sign 3 guys back to the big roster, the 53-man roster. Tight end Eric Sobert, as we thought, offensive lineman Ben Barch, and cornerback Rakia Sin. So that is the roster as it stands now, with one more addition, Croc. One of our favorites pre-draft just a few years ago, former LSU wide receiver and former Carolina Panther, Terrace Marshall, has been signed to the 49ers practice squad as well.
I got tagged a lot with that. And they're like, Croc, they got your guy. And I'm like, he was my guy coming out of college. Once you play in the NFL, there's a sample size. And so far, his sample size hasn't been great. And he does bring something a little different. I thought he was a terrific all-around receiver coming out of LSU. I thought when you watched him with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, I mean, he was really good. And some of his production kind of slightly fell off the next year. You didn't have Joe Burrow throwing you the ball. They're struggling to kind of find that quarterback connection. But he's a very talented receiver. Went to Carolina. We know how that's been. Hasn't been the best situation as far as quarterbacks goes. And I think for some of these younger receivers, kind of hard to find your footing. So, I think, again, I don't have any expectations for Terrace Marshall. It's not like I think, Brandon Aiyuk's not out there. Well, you got Terrace Marshall on the practice squad. Maybe he can eventually take his place. I'm not expecting that, but maybe this is a good reset for him to go to an organization that prepares a certain way. Maybe him getting with the program can help reshape the start of his career.
And really the type of receiver that Kyle Shanahan doesn't like and doesn't bring in very often. He's a tall, linear wide receiver, really good downfield player. In fact, last year, according to 2022, the 2022 season, which I believe was the year he got the most starts in the NFL, and he started games in all of his 3 years in the NFL for the Carolina Panthers. And again, not great quarterback situations. He was the highest graded wide receiver on go routes in the entire league, 97.1 grade on go routes, according to Pro Football Focus in 2022. So there is some talent there. He's got speed, size, 6'2". He has some athleticism. I think the big thing, talking to my folks over there that cover the Carolina Panthers, it's effort. I think maybe he hasn't twisted the rag and gotten every bit of water out of that rag that he could. Every bit of talent has not been twisted out of that rag. So I think that's maybe the 49ers can light a fire under him. Maybe they have a plan for him and we can see things work out, because it does happen. And Croc, by the way, he turned 24 this summer. And the 49ers' most recent first round pick turns 24 next week. So he's the same age as Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah. Yeah. So, still young, youthful, a lot of production in college. Can maybe a better situation, maybe better coaching help take things over the top. And for him as a young receiver, all you can ask for is hopefully like this change in a mindset, right? Because the 49ers, say what you want, but Kyle Shanahan, the way he's on his receivers, he is tough on them. I like that John Lynch said this with receivers, whatever ability you have, they will squeeze all that out of you. And I'm hoping that for Terrace Marshall, that's something that is true for him. And maybe this ends up being a good situation.
A bummer how many players were claimed from the San Francisco 49ers, Croc. And I'm sure the 49ers would have wanted all of these guys back on the practice squad. So 3 players were claimed. I believe Jalen Graham cleared waivers and then was just signed by the Washington Commanders. So Adam Peters did get one of the 49ers that he helped draft. That was linebacker Jalen Graham. He ended up signing with the San Francisco or the Washington Commanders. And I'm sure, just a logjam at linebacker. He didn't even want to try to come back to the 49ers practice squad and saw a better opportunity somewhere else with a GM who believes in him. And then 3 players were claimed by other teams. 6th round guard, Jarrett Kingston. That one probably stings the 49ers a little bit because he looked good in his rookie preseason, but he got waived and there was a numbers crunch there and they had too many guards. And he ends up getting swiped up by the Carolina Panthers, who are number 1 in the waiver wire, by the way, I think. So he might have been the top guy claimed. I don't know how many guys the Panthers claimed. Samuel Womack was claimed by the Indianapolis Colts, and running back Cody Schrader was claimed by the division rival Los Angeles Rams. So the average height for the top 3 Rams running backs now with Cody Schrader, and I don't know if Cody Schrader is probably not a top 3 running back on that team right now. He's probably number 4 or 5 running back on that team right now. I have to look at their depth chart, but I know they got a couple of guys after Kyron Williams, but Kyron Williams is 5'8", and I think Schrader and the dude from Michigan, Blake Corum, I think they're both like 5'7". I don't know what it is with Sean McVay. He's a short king himself, so maybe that's why he likes the short king wide receivers and the short king running backs.
Yeah, I'm interested to see with Cody Schrader. Again, he was someone I thought possessed a lot of ability when he was at Missouri. You watch him against the SEC, leading the conference and rushing, doing all that. And then in the NFL, it's like, dang, is he athletic enough, right? Because he's not a big body. So he's kind of small, got a little bit of, a little undersized, but then you do lack this speed. If there's any place that may be able to take advantage of it, it might be the Rams, because if you look at Kyron Williams, this was a guy did not run well coming out of Notre Dame, not a big guy. So maybe they see a Kyron Williams clone and they have a little bit more use for Schrader than the 49ers.
This is funny. In the chat, William says, we need to draft the left tackle next draft. I've been saying that for 3 years, man. That's something that has been needed for the San Francisco 49ers. Thanks everybody for jumping in the live show. Rookie Isaac Guerrero, I guess, banged up with a groin injury, so now he's in question for week 1 too. So maybe the 49ers are a little light on running backs. All of a sudden, once again, I think Mason and McCaffrey would be just fine for the San Francisco 49ers. Big stock up for Jordan Mason, by the way, in your fantasy leagues if you're looking for that McCaffrey handcuff. The roster is living and breathing and always changing, Croc. So we'll see. Do you have something to report?
Yeah, I wanted to answer this right here. This is something a lot of people just may not know, and I don't know if all places in the NFL are the same, but Life Done Daily in the chat says, I'm still at a loss on why the NFL hasn't mandated financial literacy training or money management for all incoming rookies. And again, all I can do is speak on my experience in the NFL. But during the offseason OTA portion, of the offseason, we were mandated to go to a class. It was all first and second year players. And it was 2 hours every day. So remember, you were there 4 days a week. And out of the 4 days, two hours each of those days, it was kind of like a life class, pretty much. Like, of course, they brought in, cops, they brought in lawyers, they brought in financial advisors, they brought in pretty much any and everybody that can help you with, they even brought in someone to teach you how to buy a car, like a right way, so you can get the best bang for your value. So they had somebody come in and they gave you resources and they told you who to talk to. Some people just ignore it, or a lot of people just ignore it.
Is that the symposium thing where Michael Irvin said you have to find yourself a fall guy? Do you remember?
No, that's not even. And I think it might have been Chris Carter that said that.
Oh, Chris Carter, yeah.
Yeah, no, they have this symposium. This is different. This is at the facility, and it's
it's like a class, straight up class.
Yeah, it's like a class, man. They even had you play games. I was in a group. It was me, Geno Smith, and my guy Rontez Miles, and we were in a group, and we picked the girl that we wanted, and it was the bad choice because we ended up having 3 kids, and then she divorced us, and then she took our money. Like, they even have like these games that you play. So they do a lot of those things, but some people just don't really take to it.
You even picked the wrong woman. That's unbelievable.
Oh, we picked the wrong woman, man. She took everything we had, and she was a stripper. We should have known.
Maybe it's a good thing they have that class. The first question, like, who do you pick? Oh, give me the stripper. That's going to turn out great. Not to disrespect another job out there, Croc, that you do show up to see people perform, by the way, right? There's one. Podcasting as well. Thanks, everybody, for joining us and showing up to our job. Appreciate all the everydayers out there. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. For your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy, Locked On Dynasty. Get ready for those drafts and dominate your league this year. And any of the 200 podcasts here on the network, your team, your sport is covered. Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.